Hello, I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan. You may know me as the host of the Stones Unturned podcast on Patreon, or as the author of The Myth of the Zodiac Killer. In any case, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to assemble the Teeter Freestep Model LT3 recumbent elliptical exerciser. Now, if you're some 25-year-old hardbody looking to burn 2,000 calories an hour, this machine is probably not for you. This machine is made more for people of a certain age, people who have recovered from knee replacement surgery or have other problems with their hips, knees, back. And there aren't a lot of choices in recumbent elliptical exercise machines. So I did my homework and I chose the Teeter Freestep Model LT3. Now I'm going to make a separate video that shows you exactly why I chose this machine. This video I'm going to show you how to assemble the Teeter Freestep. It comes mostly pre-assembled, which is great, but it is about 115 pounds including the box. Now, I'm not going to show you the unboxing because frankly there was just too much swearing. What I learned the hard way is this. You don't remove the machine from the box. You remove the box from the machine. Remember that. Let's get started. The first thing we need to do is read the instructions. There's also an app that you can get that will download 3D assembly instructions. That's wonderful, but there's nothing quite like a real person in the real world trying to assemble a machine like this for the first time. So the first thing we do is read the instructions, and again, assembly of this looks like it's going to be pretty simple. Now, here's the machine as it comes fresh out of the box. And again, you want to remove the box from the machine. The machine itself weighs about 110 pounds, fully assembled. The first thing we need to do is add this assembly. Okay, the rear stabilizer, which also has wheels for moving it around easily. We want to add this to here. Now, according to the instructions, there was a wooden block inserted in this square tubing during shipping. Mine fell out as I unpacked the machine, so I didn't have to do that. Now, this is the heaviest part of the machine. You may want a little bit of help to do this. Let me see if I can do this on my own. Lift this up. Slide that in there. And then we have some screws that we need to place. Here we are on page 5 of the instructions, which I assume that you're looking at. We need part number 106, part number 9, part number 8. That's a bolt, a spring washer, and a washer. We need 2 of those to go in these 2 holes right here. This is kind of nice. The little bags of parts are labeled with what step they need to be used. So we're looking for step 1. Step 1A, there we go. I've got my little white plastic bowl. I put these in so they don't scatter everywhere. I have my bolt and I have plenty of washers, but there's a little lock washer or spring washer that goes on first. Then my washer. And then the screws into a nut that's welded to the inside of the stabilizer, so these should start. There's no nut underneath that I need to hold tight. It's been welded to this assembly here. In fact, what I've done is I've lifted this up and placed it on a little dumbbell like a car jack. So this isn't on the floor and I got plenty of play. Wiggle this around with some wiggle room to get these screws started. Okay, I actually went ahead and lifted this up and tipped this forward onto the forward frame very gently just to be able to get to this. This is, again, the hardest step. So once this is done, you're sort of over the hump. But I eventually had to tip this forward. You may need help doing this because this is the heaviest part of the machine. The next step is to add these guards over this part of the assembly, okay, like this. We'll see how that goes. And that's held in place, held together by these two long machine screws, which are helpfully labeled Step 1B. Can you see that? And you can see in the assembly manual which side is the left side, which side is the right side. There are two pre-installed pins. You'll see them. They sort of snap together, and then across the bottom there are these two machine screws. And then you'll see a hole here, and you'll see another place here, a little threaded nut welded in here, where this machine screw will hold this piece in, and these two sort of pre-installed posts are sort of snap together. Now the tool this comes with has a Phillips head end on it. Let's see if this will work at all. It seemed to go in pretty smoothly, yes or no? Those threads actually catch? Yes, they did. That was pretty easy. Good enough. So the next step is to put these pedals on this part of the machine, like this. Now the bolts go in from the bottom. So the instructions actually recommend tipping the machine back the other way, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, according to the instructions, we start by raising up this part of the seat mount. This is a handle here. What the instructions don't tell you is you need to loosen this knob first. We need to raise this up as far as it goes. Secure that knob again. Okay, let's see if we can tip this bad boy up. So, remembering that there are wheels back there, let's try lifting this up carefully and tilting it back on so that it rests on those handles. Once again, this is a job you may want some help with. So to complete step 2, we need the step 2 hardware kit, which is Phillips head screws and flat washers to attach these pedals. This end, sort of see a little slot there. This is the heel end. Again, these are universal left and right. That doesn't matter, but this is the heel end. So this is the toe end. Let's see if I can. This is the toe end. This goes towards the front of the machine. And each of these number 2 screws with the washer, you can see there's a molded in brass nut there and pre-threaded. So you'll just screw these with a washer. You'll screw these in place something like this. And when you pre-fit these, it makes a lot of sense. You can see where the holes line up and it kind of pops itself into place. And once again, you want to start all 6 screws before you actually tighten any of them, okay? Okay, just to give you a bit more detail here before I tighten these screws down. From this view, you can see this LR worthless information, but at least it tells you this is the toe end, which goes to the front of the machine. And before you tighten these screws, you can tell by look and by feel. See, there are little tabs in the plastic pedal part itself, which line up with these metal parts that you're screwing this down to. Once again, I've got a washer, then the screw. The screw goes into that little brass nut that's pre-installed in the pedal, and when I'm sure that that's lined up correctly, I can tighten these screws. They don't have to be very tight. This little tool here should do the job. Now it's time to assemble the seat. There's a seat back, and then the seat bottom is attached to the seat back. Now on the LT3 model, you have two options, and you can change this later for where you want the seat bottom a little bit forward or do you want it a little bit back. So first I need to find the step 3 hardware, and this looks like the same hex driver bolts with lock washers and flat washers that we use to put the rear assembly with the wheels on the main frame. I'm going to put my seat bottom on a flat surface. I've got my little TV tray here, which is sort of this is the narrow, that will be the front. The seat back goes this way, so we're doing this upside down basically. So the seat back hangs off the back of my little table, and then I'm going to use the hole so that the seat back is back a little bit further, because I assume that my legs are long enough for that. That went suspiciously easy. Line this up. Once again, you want to start all 4 of these bolts before you tighten any of them. And here we have our assembled seat. Now, for step 4, we're going to install the front crossbar that has the electronics on it, and we're going to install that right here. It just slips inside. Frame there, and you'll see inside this piece, once again, you have the pre-threaded, and there's a wire, there's a connector that will need, you want to pull that out of there before you put that on, so that doesn't get cut off. You see that? This was tucked inside. It's on one side. It's on one side of this crossbar piece with the electronics. So the wire that runs back to the magnetic resistance, the main part of the unit, you'd kind of pull that out so that it doesn't get pinched or cut off. You want this part to be up. This is where you hold you can put your tablet, your phone here. These are the electronics for the machine. And there are pre-threaded holes here where the bolts will go in. So we keep this out, slip that in like this. So the holes line up with those pre-threaded slots, and we will need the step 4A hardware to attach that. Same bolts. Same hex drive bolts, but without the lock washers, just flat washers. Once again, you want to start all 4 bolts before you tighten any of them. And before you tighten, make sure that your washers are lined up properly. Now with this piece secure, I can connect the sensor wires. You'll find the other end with this yellow tag. Remove that yellow tag, in theory. This connector will snap together. It's sort of like on a car or an appliance. You can see there's a right way and a wrong way. Do that on the outside so that it doesn't get tangled up in these moving parts on the inside. See? Now with this bar in place, it's much easier to lift this end, tilt it back on its wheels, move it around. Now I skipped step 3B, attaching the seat, because I wanted to install the front bar so I could move this thing around. So let's go back to step 3B, which is to attach the seat to the machine. And we have 4 holes corresponding to 4 welded in threaded nuts on this part of the frame. We'll attach that using Hardware Kit 3B, which is 4 more of our lucky hex drive bolts with the lock washers and flat washers both again this time. Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. Next thing we need to do is install these 2 pieces which the handles will attach to. And we add these right here, and these are handily labeled right and left, and that corresponds to your left hand and right hand being seated on the machine. Another way you can tell is the blue knob should be facing to the front, and the whole assembly should angle just a little bit to the outside, not to the inside. That's how you know you got the left and the right in the correct positions. And then we'll use the step 4B hardware kit. Once again, we have the curved washers. So the bolts are going to go first. You'll have the washer on there first. You want to make sure the curved part, right, this part of the machine goes in there, and then inside this part, you'll see the threaded part where these bolts will go in. 4 on each, 2 outside, 2 inside. Okay, and once again, you want all bolts started before you tighten any of them. And I won't lie to you, these little inside holes, these are a little tricky. Once again, you want to have all 5 bolts started before you tighten any of them. Remember, when you install these handles, you do not want the handle to be to the inside. You want the handle to be pointed to the outside. Okay? To do this, line this up, pull out on this knob. Okay, and then that snaps into place. You'll adjust this to suit your comfort. Now these cover parts, here's one with the pretty design on it. And there'll be 2 matching halves like this. That's fairly simple to figure out, however, and they are helpfully marked left and right. Can you see that? Once again, left and right compared to sitting in the seat. So this assembly would go here. Let me see if you can see this. You'll notice, looking this way, where the tubing would go, you have these little things sticking up here that the screws will go into. Exactly where the tubing goes, these line up, so you have it like this. You have it oriented this way with the wide part to the front. See, this makes a triangle, and you line those up with holes right here in this tubing. So like this would cover up where you connected that wire, and these, they line up with holes in the frame. And then this piece lines up the same way. So it will go like this. And then the screws go through from the inside. So you need to have this out of your way. And you'll find the screws in the Step 5 hardware kit. Now that's for these. Okay, there's a left and a right. Right, there's another pair that goes over there. And then this assembly, this cover assembly, again labeled left and right. Can you see that? So I've got my left hand assembly here. These go on. These go on here. And once again, you have holes that line up, right? So this slot will line up with this cross here that holds this to the frame. This pivots. See how this pivots right here? Pivots right there. That's where this slot lines up. So this piece goes on here. And once again, you have holes through this part of the tubing where you line up where the screws go. That took me about 2 hours by myself. I had to stop a few times and fiddle with the camera, but allow yourself an hour and a half to 2 hours. And I would recommend, if possible, getting yourself an extra pair of hands to help. But I did get this bad boy put together on my own, and I'm very much looking forward to trying this out. That will be a separate video. Once again, I'm Professor Thomas Henry Horan. I hope this video was helpful. Remember, any exercise is better than no exercise. I'll see you soon.